With the anniversary of the observance of the global jihad terrorist attacks that claimed the lives of 2,996 Americans at the Pentagon, the World Trade Center, and aboard Flight 93 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, it is of significance in a pandemic crisis that has changed America in more ways than the tragic event changed air travel, that despite an abrupt escalation of civil unrest, roughly 7% of which has been characterized as violent, that global terror has taken a holiday, or appeared to do so, which is a significant anomaly for any intelligence analyst looking at global politics, but also any reasonable person attempting to reconcile exactly what risk a suicidal terrorist would find from an allegedly infectious and lethal disease. But perhaps, as they say, it is what it is. Nonetheless, reflecting on those tragic events in September 2001, the official history recorded by the Department of the Navy has reported that near simultaneous departure and subsequent hijacking of the 4 planes, all of which took off within a period of 43 minutes, maximized the element of surprise, allowing the FAA little time to warn pilots in U.S. airspace. The huge number of aircraft, more than 4,600 aloft over the continental United States, made it difficult for NORAD to identify the 4 rogue aircraft. Finally, the element of surprise reduced the time available to interceptors to divert or shoot down the hijacked aircraft, assuming that a decision to do so could have been made in time. On that day, in September 2001, only 14 U.S. fighter planes were on alert to guard the whole of American airspace that morning. And as most recall, for their assault on the U.S. homeland on September 11, 2001, the terrorists identified as belonging to the Al-Qaeda network headed by Osama bin Laden chose 4 targets known to the world as prominent symbols of American prestige and power. The first 2, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York, were icons representing American economic strength. The third, the Pentagon, represented U.S. military might. A 4th and highest value target selected, presumably the White House or the Capitol, escaped attack when the hijacked plane destined for it crashed in Pennsylvania. The first significant alert that day, according to the Department of the Navy, was when the air controllers first registered concern at 8:21 a.m., when American Flight 11 turned off its transponder. The Federal Aviation Administration sent its first warning of the hijacking of American Flight 11 to the Northeast Air Defense Sector of the North American Aerospace Defense Command at 8:38 a.m. Similarly, with regards to United Airlines Flight 175, also departing from Boston Logan, but at 8:14 a.m., stopped transmitting within a half hour of departing when they were over the central part of the state of New York. Despite the tragedy, it is of significance that, like a flight checklist before attempting to fly a jumbo jet aircraft and launch it from a runway, there were procedures and protocols that were pressed to their limits, but which were followed to attempt to avert a national disaster. Similarly, in infectious disease control, where medical professionals are employed around the world with a mission to avert the outbreak and spread of a pandemic pathogen, there are established protocols that enable them to identify threats systematically and to develop effective strategies to interdict and arrest the spread of a potentially catastrophic public health crisis. And for decades in the field of epidemiology, one of those checklists is described as Koch's postulates. 4 simple common sense questions to specifically identify through forensic research and observation the cause of a disease by a virus or some other source that may not be as obvious. The first item on the Koch postulate checklist is to examine a sample of infected tissue from a diseased patient and to determine if that pathogen is present. In this case, the virus known scientifically as SARS-CoV-2, the pathogen for which persons are being tested to reflect over 6 million confirmed cases to date of infection in the United States. And the second step is to attempt to isolate the virus by recovering a viable specimen from the diseased tissue, which was actually done very early to provide multiple news agencies the opportunity to introduce American consumers of news to a graphic picture of a novel coronavirus with its signature crowns. However, under the Koch postulates, there were 2 more steps to provide a positive validation of a conclusion that pathogenic element is in fact the cause of the disease. In this case, COVID-19, the name given to the disease reported to be caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And that common sense third step may seem superfluous to a layman, but not to an epidemiologist or someone involved in infectious disease control who will attempt to take the isolated specimen of the pathogen and introduce it to a healthy human cell to determine, test, and verify that the presence of that specific pathogen is actually the cause of the disease. And as you know, if the glove don't fit, you must quit. So, would it concern you that despite the emergence of a pandemic pathogen that has claimed the lives of over almost 900,000 worldwide, that the third Koch postulate has never been confirmed to validate a novel coronavirus as the cause of COVID-19? Taken together with the elderly in nursing homes, a population known to be vulnerable from the outset, who were neglected, as governors like the nation's only physician serving as a state governor, Ralph Northam, ignored even a dedicated resource for steps to take that was published by the World Health Organization. His neglect of commencing immediately a robust operation to follow up with tracer contacts, an effort for which he claimed to have received over 6,000 resumes at the beginning of May, but for which he only filled 168 of 1,300 positions by mid-July, and his decision, for whatever reason, to evade the Alexandria City Sheriff as well as the United States Marshals, who had attempted to serve him a summons for appearance in court to hold him accountable for these significant omissions that would establish whether or not he had even authority to declare an emergency or issue draconian orders that threatened individual liberties guaranteed under the Constitution to every American citizen. Make this systemic failure of failing to validate the cause of a lethal disease all the more significant, especially for a doctor. But of course, now most attention has been diverted to the upcoming election and the procedures that have been implemented to provide voters an opportunity to cast their ballot in a safe manner, avoiding a pathogen that has never been determined scientifically to be the cause of the lethal disease that they fear. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress with liberty, honor, and excellence. By God, we shall make America great again. Honest. This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.